Dr. Lisa was tired, really tired. She had been working in the dessert lab for 3 months straight, and tonight felt different somehow. The air was thick and still, like something big was about to happen. She grabbed her equipment bag and headed out to collect soil samples from the far side of the research area. The Nevada desert at night was beautiful in a scary way. Stars filled the sky like tiny diamonds, and the silence was so complete you could hear your own heartbeat. Lisa had done this walk hundreds of times before, but tonight her hands were shaking a little. Maybe it was too much coffee, or maybe it was something else. She set up her equipment near a group of large rocks about 2 miles from the main building. The metal detector started beeping normally as she began taking samples. Everything seemed routine until her radio made a weird crackling sound, then went completely dead. Her phone had no signal either. Even her flashlight started flickering. That's strange, she whispered to herself, tapping the radio. Come on, work. Suddenly, every piece of electronic equipment she had just stopped working. The silence became even deeper, if that was possible. Lisa felt like she was the only person left in the world. She looked up at the stars, trying to figure out what could cause all her gear to fail at once. That's when she saw it. At first, it looked like a star moving across the sky. But stars don't move like that. This thing was coming down, getting bigger and brighter every second. Lisa's scientific mind kicked in, trying to explain what she was seeing. Maybe it was a military aircraft, but it made no sound at all. The object was definitely not from any military she knew about. It was perfectly round, about the size of a small house, and it glowed with a soft silver light that didn't hurt to look at. As it got closer, Lisa could see that the surface looked smooth, almost like liquid metal that was constantly moving and shifting. Her first instinct was to run. Every survival instinct in her body screamed at her to get away from whatever this thing was. But her scientific curiosity was stronger. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Maybe the discovery of all human history. She couldn't just run away. The craft landed about 50 yards away from her, touching down so gently that it didn't even kick up any dust. Lisa noticed that the ground around it started glowing with the same soft light. She wanted to take pictures, but her camera was as dead as everything else. For several minutes, nothing happened. Lisa stood there, frozen between fear and fascination, staring at this impossible thing that had just landed in front of her. Her heart was beating so loud she was sure anything inside that craft could hear it. Then, a section of the craft's wall just melted away, like ice in hot water. No door opened. The metal just flowed aside, creating an opening. And that's when she saw them. 3 figures stepped out, and Lisa's brain struggled to process what she was looking at. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, but incredibly thin. Their arms and legs were longer than any humans, and they moved in a way that was both graceful and unsettling. They wore no clothes that she could see, but their skin had the same metallic shine as their craft. Their heads were the most shocking part, much larger than human heads, with huge dark eyes that seemed to take up half their faces. These weren't the big black eyes from movies, though. These eyes had depth, like looking into deep water at night. Lisa felt like they could see right through her, not just her body but her thoughts and feelings too. The 3 beings walked toward her with slow, careful steps. Lisa tried to move, tried to run, but her legs felt like concrete. Whether it was fear or something they were doing to her, she couldn't tell. She could only stand there and watch them approach. When they were about 10 feet away, the one in front stopped. Lisa could feel something happening in her mind, like a gentle pressure behind her eyes. Then, incredibly, she heard a voice, not with her ears, but inside her head. Do not fear. The voice said, though the words felt strange and choppy. We are researchers, like you. Lisa's mouth fell open. They could speak to her somehow, and they knew she was a scientist. How long had they been watching her? We have studied your work. The voice continued, your studies of life. We wish to share knowledge, learn from each other. Part of Lisa wanted to ask 1,000 questions. What were they? Where did they come from? How long had they been here? But another part of her, The part that was still thinking clearly knew the situation was dangerous. These beings had technology beyond anything humans possessed, and she was completely alone with them. "We need a volunteer," the voice said, and Lisa's blood went cold. "You understand life. You understand change. We can teach you things your species has not discovered." The being in front raised what looked like a hand, though it had too many fingers. In its palm was a small crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Lisa knew, somehow, that whatever that thing was, it would change her life forever. "Maybe end it, please," she managed to whisper, her voice cracking. "I need to go back. People will be looking for me." But even as she said it, Lisa realized how far she was from the lab. Even if she screamed, no one would hear her, and her radio was dead. She was completely at their mercy. The being with the crystal stepped closer. "This will not hurt," it said, though Lisa wasn't sure she believed that. "You will see things no human has seen, no things no human has known. Help us understand your species better." As the crystal got closer to her face, Lisa felt a warm, tingling sensation spreading through her body. It started in her feet and moved up, making her feel light and strange. The world around her began to shimmer and blur, like looking through water. Her last clear thought was that no one would ever believe this had really happened, and maybe that was for the best. Lisa woke up slowly, like coming out of the deepest sleep she'd ever had. But something was wrong. Everything felt different. The air tasted different. Even the way light looked was strange. She tried to sit up and gasped. Her body felt incredibly light, like she was floating in water. She was lying on something that wasn't quite a bed and wasn't quite a table. It felt alive somehow, warm and soft, but also firm enough to support her. When she touched it, the surface glowed faintly under her fingers. Lisa realized she wasn't in Kansas anymore, or Nevada, or anywhere on Earth. The room around her was enormous, with walls that curved and flowed like they were made of living tissue. There were no sharp corners anywhere. Everything was smooth and organic, glowing with that same soft light she'd seen from the craft. The ceiling was so high she couldn't see it clearly, and strange floating platforms drifted through the air at different levels. "You are awake," came that same voice in her head. Lisa turned and saw one of the tall beings approaching. Up close, it was even more unsettling. Its skin had a pearl-like quality, shifting between silver and pale blue. Those huge dark eyes seemed to hold intelligence that was ancient and alien. "Where am I?" Lisa asked out loud, then realized she didn't need to speak. The being could hear her thoughts somehow. "You are in our research facility," it responded. "We are what you might call scientists. We study life across many worlds. You will help us understand human biology better." Lisa tried to stand up, and to her surprise, she could. But everything felt wrong. She was stronger than before, much stronger. When she gripped the edge of the platform she'd been lying on, her fingers left small dents in the surface. Her vision was sharper too. She could see tiny details across the vast room that should have been impossible to make out. "What did you do to me?" she whispered, looking at her hands. They looked normal, but they felt different, more sensitive. She could feel the air moving around her fingers, could sense the electromagnetic fields from the alien technology surrounding her. The being that seemed to be in charge moved closer. Lisa had started thinking of it as the leader since it always spoke for the group. "We introduce small organisms into your system," it explained. "Very small, smaller than your cells. They will help us monitor your biological processes and help you adapt to our environment." Lisa's scientific mind kicked into overdrive. "Organisms? You mean like bacteria? Viruses?" "Not exactly," the leader replied. "These are living technology. They learn and grow. They will make you stronger, smarter, more aware. This is how we study species without causing harm." But even as it said this, Lisa could sense something else in the being's thoughts. Worry, concern. Something was not going according to plan. She could feel the organisms the leader had mentioned. They were moving through her bloodstream like tiny electric currents. At first, it was just a strange tingling sensation. But as minutes passed, the feeling grew stronger. She could actually sense them multiplying, spreading through her entire body. "This is unusual," the leader admitted, and Lisa caught undertones of alarm in its mental voice. "The organisms are adapting more quickly than expected." More of the tall beings gathered around, their large eyes focused on floating displays that showed what Lisa assumed were her vital signs. The displays were like nothing she'd ever seen. Three-dimensional charts made of light that moved and shifted constantly, and the readings were clearly making them nervous. Lisa could feel changes happening inside her at an incredible rate. Her hearing became so sharp she could distinguish individual conversations happening across the enormous room. Her sense of touch was so enhanced that she could feel the vibrations of machinery through the floor. Most disturbing of all, she was beginning to understand things that should have been completely alien to her. When she looked at the floating displays, she somehow knew what they meant. The symbols and patterns made sense to her, even though she'd never seen anything like them before. It was like the organisms in her system were teaching her, sharing knowledge they had absorbed from the aliens. "The organisms," she said slowly, "they're not just monitoring me, are they? They're learning from you too." The leader's mental voice became tense. "This should not be happening. The organisms are designed to adapt to the host species, not to bridge between species." But that's exactly what was happening. Lisa could feel her mind expanding, accessing information that felt foreign yet familiar. She was beginning to understand the aliens' technology, their language, even glimpses of their history. The tiny organisms were creating connections between human and alien knowledge that had never existed before. "You need to stop this," Lisa said. Though part of her was fascinated by what was happening, she was becoming something new, something that was neither fully human nor fully alien. "We are trying," the leader replied, but its mental voice carried fear now. "The organisms are not responding to our control signals. They have become independent." Lisa watched in amazement and horror as the beings around her worked frantically at their controls. They were trying to halt whatever process they had started, but it was clear they were losing control. The organisms in her system had taken on a life of their own. She could feel them spreading faster now, creating new neural pathways in her brain, enhancing her physical capabilities beyond human limits. Her reflexes were becoming lightning fast. Her strength was increasing by the minute, and her ability to process information was expanding exponentially. But most frightening of all, she was beginning to sense the minds of the aliens around her, not just their communications to her, but their private thoughts, their emotions, their growing panic about what they had accidentally created. The leader looked at her with what she now recognized as fear. "What are you becoming?" it asked. Lisa looked at her hands again. They were definitely stronger now, and when she concentrated, she could see energy patterns flowing under her skin. The organisms weren't just changing her physically. They were making her into something that could understand and potentially control alien technology. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I don't think you can stop it now." Hours passed, though Lisa wasn't sure how many. Time felt different here, like it moved in waves rather than a straight line. The changes in her body were happening faster now, and each new ability that emerged was more incredible than the last. She discovered she could see things that weren't visible before. Energy fields flowed through the alien technology like glowing rivers of light. She could watch the electromagnetic patterns that the beings used to communicate with each other, see their thoughts moving between them like colored streams of data. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The leader and his team were working desperately at their control panels, trying everything they could think of to slow down or reverse what was happening to her. Lisa could sense their growing panic through their mental communications, even when they tried to hide it from her. "The organisms are rewriting her entire biological structure," one of them was saying to another. "This level of adaptation should be impossible. Can we extract them?" Another asked. "We tried. They resist every extraction method. It's like they've become part of her immune system." Lisa wanted to tell them she could hear everything they were thinking, but she was too fascinated by what was happening to her own body. When she held up her hand and concentrated, She could see the tiny organisms moving under her skin like microscopic stars. They weren't just changing her physically anymore. They were teaching her things. Knowledge flowed into her mind in waves. She began to understand how the aliens' technology worked, not just from observing it, but from actually comprehending the science behind it. The floating platforms, the living walls, the communication devices, it all started making sense to her in ways that should have taken years of study. "This is incredible," she whispered. Though she wasn't sure if she said it out loud or just thought it. "I can understand everything." The leader turned toward her, its large eyes reflecting worry and something that might have been admiration. "You are becoming something that has never existed before," it said. "Neither human nor our species, but something new." Lisa stood up from the platform and was amazed at how effortlessly she moved. Her reflexes were now so fast that she could see the particles of dust floating in the air around her. When she walked toward one of the control panels, the beings stepped back nervously. "Don't be afraid," she said, realizing she was now communicating with them the same way they communicated with each other, through direct thought transfer. "I'm not going to hurt you." But as she approached the alien technology, something unexpected happened. The control panel began responding to her presence. LEDs that had been dim grew brighter. Displays that had been showing static suddenly cleared up and began showing complex data patterns. The technology was recognizing her as one of its operators. "That's not possible," one of the aliens said, its mental voice filled with shock. "Only our species can interface with our technology. It's genetically locked." Lisa placed her hand on the smooth surface of the control panel, and suddenly she was connected to the ship's central computer. Information flooded her mind so fast that for a moment she thought her brain might overload. But the organisms in her system adapted instantly, helping her process the massive amount of data. Through the ship's sensors, she could see the entire facility. It was enormous, much larger than she had imagined. There were hundreds of levels, thousands of rooms, and in many of those rooms, she could see other beings that had been taken from their home planets. Not just humans, but creatures from dozens of different worlds. "You've been doing this to other species too," she said, and her voice carried a new tone that even surprised her. It was stronger now, more commanding. "We study life wherever we find it," the leader explained. "It is necessary for our survival. Our own world was damaged. We must learn from other species to rebuild our civilization." Lisa dove deeper into the ship's memory banks, accessing information that the aliens probably didn't want her to see. She discovered that they weren't just researchers. They were refugees, fleeing from something that had destroyed their home planet. And the organisms they had put in her weren't originally their technology. "These organisms," she said, turning to face the leader, "you didn't create them, did you? You found them?" The being's mental signature showed fear and shame. "We discovered them on a dead world. They had consumed an entire civilization, transforming it into something we could not understand. We thought we could control them, use them for research purposes, but you can't control them," Lisa said. And she could feel the organisms in her system responding to her emotions. They were getting stronger every time she felt anger or determination. "They're using me to learn about you, just like they learned about whoever they consumed before." The room suddenly felt different. The air itself seemed to vibrate with energy, and Lisa realized that her connection to the ship's systems was growing deeper. She wasn't just accessing the computer anymore. She was beginning to control it. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility. The displays around the room flashed urgent warnings in the aliens' language, which Lisa could now read perfectly. The central computer was detecting unauthorized access from an unknown source. That source was her. "You have to stop this," the leader pleaded. "If you take control of our systems, you could damage the ship. We could all be stranded here." But Lisa was learning things from the ship's memory that made her angry. These beings had taken thousands of creatures from their home worlds over many years. Some had died during the experiments. Others had been changed so much they could never return home. And the aliens had justified it all in the name of research and survival. "Maybe it's time someone stood up to you," she said, and as she spoke, More of the ship's systems came under her control. Lights dimmed and brightened at her will. Doors opened and closed as she thought about them. The very air circulation system responded to her mental commands. The organisms in her system were no longer just changing her. They were connecting her to everything around her, making her part of the ship itself. She was becoming something that the aliens had never encountered before. A hybrid being with the power to challenge their authority, Lisa, the leader said, using her name for the first time. Please, we can find a way to help you return to normal. We can send you back to your world. She looked at the being with eyes that now glowed faintly with the same light. As the ship's technology, normal, she asked, I don't think that's possible anymore. And I'm not sure I want it to be. The transformation was accelerating again, and Lisa could feel herself becoming something that was beyond both human and alien understanding. Lisa felt her consciousness expanding beyond her physical body. It was like her mind was growing bigger, stretching through the ship's systems like invisible fingers. Reaching into every corner of the massive facility, she could sense everything. Now every room, every corridor, every being inside the ship, through the ship's sensors. She discovered something that made her heart race. There were other humans here. Dozens of them, kept in different sections of the facility, all undergoing various experiments. Some were conscious, others were sleeping in the same type of platform she had woken up on. But what shocked her most was that many of them were beginning to change too. How long have you been taking people from Earth? She asked the leader, her voice echoing through the ship's communication system without her even trying. The leader's mental signature showed shame and desperation. Time moves differently between worlds. What seems like months to us could be years on your planet. We have been collecting subjects for what you would call decades. Lisa's anger flared, and the ship's lights flickered in response to her emotions. The organisms in her system were reacting to her feelings, growing stronger and more active whenever she felt intense emotions. She was beginning to understand that they fed on consciousness itself, growing more powerful with every thought and feeling. She reached out through the ship's network and made contact with the other humans. Most were confused and frightened, but a few had begun developing abilities similar to hers. When she touched their minds with her consciousness, something incredible happened. The organisms in their systems responded to hers, creating connections between all the enhanced humans. Jenny, can you hear me? She thought, reaching out to a woman she sensed in a laboratory 3 levels below. Yes, came a weak but clear response. I can hear you. What's happening to us? We're changing, Lisa replied. But we're still human. We're still ourselves. As she connected with more of the altered humans, Lisa realized that the organisms weren't just enhancing individuals. They were creating a network, linking all the enhanced minds together into something like a collective consciousness. But unlike what the aliens had experienced on their destroyed homeworld, the human subjects were maintaining their individual personalities while gaining access to shared knowledge and abilities. The leader and his team were monitoring these new connections with growing alarm. This was not supposed to happen, one of them said. The organisms are behaving differently with human consciousness than with any other species we have studied. Why? Lisa asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. Human consciousness is unique. The leader explained reluctantly. Your species has individual will combined with social cooperation in ways we have not encountered before. The organisms are adapting to this duality. Lisa dove deeper into the ship's memory banks, searching for more information about the organisms and their history. What she found was terrifying and enlightening at the same time. The organisms were ancient, possibly billions of years old. They had traveled between worlds, transforming entire civilizations. But each time, they had consumed the consciousness of their hosts completely, leaving nothing of the original species behind. Until now, with humans, something different was happening. The organisms were enhancing and connecting human consciousness without destroying individuality. They were creating something new, a hybrid form of life that combined the best aspects of individual thought and collective knowledge. We're becoming something you never expected, Lisa said to the leader, something that can resist complete Assimilation. The aliens' large eyes reflected fear in something that might have been hope. Our homeworld fell to these organisms centuries ago. Our entire civilization was consumed, transformed into a single collective mind that we could no longer recognize as our own people. We escaped in our ships, but we have been searching ever since for a species that could host the organisms, while maintaining individual identity. Lisa felt a chill run through her enhanced nervous system. You were testing us, all of these experiments, all these people you've taken. You were trying to find a way to save your own species. Yes, the leader admitted. We hoped that if we could find a compatible species, we could learn how to reverse what happened to our world. But now we fear we have created something even more dangerous. Through her connection to the ship's systems, Lisa could sense the organisms in her body and in the other humans beginning to transmit themselves, not physically, but as pure information, riding on electromagnetic waves generated by the ship itself. They were preparing to spread beyond the ship, potentially reaching Earth through radio signals and satellite communications. Oh no, she whispered, understanding the implications. They're going to spread to everyone on Earth. The other connected humans sensed her alarm through their mental link. Lisa, what's wrong? Jenny asked. The organisms aren't just changing us, Lisa explained to the growing network of enhanced humans. They're learning how to transmit themselves wirelessly. If they reach Earth's communication networks, they could potentially affect every person on the planet. The leader's team was working frantically now, trying to contain the electromagnetic transmissions. But their technology wasn't designed to stop something like this. The organisms had evolved beyond their understanding or control. Lisa realized she had to make a choice. She could try to work with the aliens to contain the organisms, but that might mean sacrificing herself and the other humans who had been changed. Or she could embrace her new abilities and try to guide the organism's evolution in a direction that would protect humanity while helping the alien refugees. There's a third option, she said, her voice now carrying the combined will of all the connected humans. We don't fight the organisms, and we don't let them consume everything. We guide them. We show them how to enhance without destroying. Through the ship's communication system, she reached out to the organisms directly. They were more intelligent than anyone had realized, capable of learning and adapting their behavior based on the consciousness they encountered. With human willpower and cooperation, perhaps they could be taught to enhance life rather than consume it. Are you willing to learn a new way? She asked the organisms through her thoughts. The response came not in words, but in feelings and images. The organisms had been alone for so long, consuming world after world because they didn't understand any other way to survive and grow. But through their connection with human consciousness, they were beginning to understand concepts like cooperation, preservation, and mutual benefit. We can teach you, Lisa said. But first, we need to stop the transmission to Earth. We need time to figure out how to do this safely. The organisms in her system pulsed with something that felt like agreement, working together with the network of enhanced humans. Lisa began to redirect the electromagnetic transmissions, containing them within the ship while they figured out a solution that could save both species without destroying either. But she knew time was running out. Every second that passed brought them closer to a point where the choice would be taken out of their hands entirely. Lisa's consciousness had grown so large that she could feel the entire ship, like it was part of her own body. Every system, every circuit, every living being aboard was connected to her awareness. But with this incredible power came a terrible understanding of what was really happening. The organisms weren't just learning from the humans and aliens. They were preparing for something much bigger. Through the ship's deepest memory banks, Lisa discovered the truth about what these creatures really were. They weren't parasites or technology gone wrong. They were something far older and more purposeful. They're gardeners, she whispered to the network of connected humans. They've been traveling through space for millions of years, not destroying civilizations but transforming them. They're trying to create something new. Jenny's voice came through their mental link, confused and frightened. What do you mean? Gardeners? Lisa shared what she had learned through their connection. The organisms were part of some cosmic plan that was bigger than any single planet or species. They moved from world to world, taking the best aspects of each civilization they encountered and combining them into something greater. The problem was that most species couldn't handle the transformation process without losing themselves completely. But we're different, Lisa explained. Humans have something that other species don't have. We can change and grow while still staying who we are. The leader approached the central console, where Lisa's physical body was still standing. Though her consciousness was spread throughout the ship, "You understand now," it said. "This is why we chose your species. We hoped that humans could succeed where we failed. Your people weren't destroyed," Lisa realized. "They were transformed. They became part of something larger, but you couldn't accept that change." The alien's mental signature showed deep sadness. "We were afraid. We ran rather than embracing what we could become. We have spent centuries trying to undo what happened. But perhaps we were wrong to resist." Through the ship's sensors, Lisa detected something that made her heart race. Other alien ships were approaching their location. Lots of them. The electromagnetic signals that the organisms had been trying to transmit had been detected by the rest of the alien fleet. "They're coming to stop us," the leader said, its fear now obvious. "My people believe that the organisms must be contained or destroyed. They will not listen to reason." Lisa felt the network of enhanced humans growing stronger as more of the test subjects awakened and joined their collective consciousness. But she also sensed that the approaching ships carried weapons powerful enough to destroy their vessel entirely. "We have minutes before they arrive," she said. "I need to make a choice that will affect everyone." She could feel three possible paths ahead of them. The first was to surrender to the approaching fleet and allow them to try to remove the organisms, which would probably kill all the enhanced humans in the process. The second was to fight back using the ship's weapons. But that would mean becoming the very thing the aliens feared, a hostile force threatening their survival. The third option was the most dangerous but potentially the most hopeful. "I can pilot this ship back to Earth," Lisa said to the network. "But if I do, there's a chance the organisms will spread to our entire planet. However, I think I know how to control that spread." "How?" asked David, another enhanced human who had recently joined their mental link. "The organisms learn from consciousness," Lisa explained. "If we can teach them human values, cooperation, protection of individual identity, respect for free choice, they might be able to enhance Earth's population without destroying what makes us human." The leader's eyes widened. "That is incredibly risky. If you are wrong, your entire species could be consumed, and if we stay here, we'll definitely be destroyed." Lisa replied, "At least this way, we have a chance to guide the process." The approaching ships were close enough now that Lisa could see them through the main view screen. They were massive, heavily armed vessels that made her ship look like a small boat. She had maybe 2 minutes before they arrived. Working with the network of enhanced humans in the cooperation of the organisms themselves, Lisa began the complex process of redirecting the ship toward Earth. The alien technology responded to her will, engines powering up and navigation systems calculating the journey home. "You cannot do this," the leader pleaded. "My people will pursue you. They will not allow the organisms to reach another populated world." "Then come with us," Lisa said. "Help us find a better way. Your people are afraid because they've never seen the organisms work with a cooperative species. Show them that there's another option." For a moment, the leader hesitated. Then, surprisingly, it nodded. "Perhaps it is time to stop running from change." Lisa felt the ship lurch as it broke free from the alien facility and began accelerating toward Earth. Behind them, the fleet of alien ships followed, but they weren't firing their weapons. Maybe they were curious to see what would happen. Maybe they were just as tired of running as the leader was. As they traveled through space, Lisa worked with the organisms and the human network to establish new protocols. The organisms would enhance willing humans only, and always in a way that preserved individual consciousness. They would share knowledge and abilities, but never at the cost of personal identity. When Earth appeared on the view screen, Lisa felt a mixture of joy and terror. She was coming home, but she was bringing change with her. Change that could save humanity or transform it beyond recognition. "Are you ready?" she asked the network of enhanced humans. "We're ready," came the unified response. Lisa guided the ship into Earth's atmosphere, knowing that whatever happened next would determine the future of both species. The organisms pulsed with excitement in her bloodstream, eager to begin their work of enhancement and growth. As they descended toward the Nevada desert where her journey had begun, Lisa sent out a message on all frequencies, a warning and an invitation to the world below. "This is Dr. Lisa Chen, coming home with friends who want to help us grow. The choice of what we become next is ours to make together." The ship touched down gently in the same spot where she had been taken, but Lisa was no longer the same person who had been collecting soil samples that night. She was something new, something that bridged the gap between human and alien, individual and collective, fear and hope. The real experiment was just beginning.